This is TWiT.
Now, speaking of build, one of the things that people are anticipating is Microsoft Windows 10 Lean. What is Lean? It sounds like
the
a new
keto
flavor
version
of Hot
Windows
Pocket.
10. It's low carb.
I like that. Low carb, no fat. Yeah, so, okay, we don't really know what Lean is. TFW Boredom on Twitter, whose name is Lucan, Lucan, he was digging into the latest Redstone 5 test build, and he found a mention of Windows 10 Lean. Sorry, I'm having a little cat issue here. I can't see.
Does it mean or is that cat the size of a puma now?
He's getting bigger and bigger. He is. He saw this list of additions of Windows 10, and it mentioned Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Home N, and then Windows 10 Lean. And I've been asking around since he posted this to try to see if any of my contacts knew what this was, and they were like, "What? Huh? What is this?" Yeah. So my first thought was maybe Lean was the official name for Windows 10 Core OS, which is this new kind of chassis thing that they're building for Windows 10 where you layer stuff on top of it. But I don't think that's what it is.
No, it's not. Actually, the guy who found this determined that it wasn't that, and I don't remember the exact rationale behind it. But so other places like this site you're looking at now think that this is some yet another attempt to get Windows onto smaller device, smaller PCs with less storage. And Microsoft has lots of goofy things in the works, but I think we all understand that ship sailed. Like, we're not going to see 16 gig laptops and 16 gig tablets, 8-inch tablets, where it's not 5 years ago anymore, folks. And that makes zero sense. That said, I don't have any sources telling me this, but having talked to various sources about some different things over the past few weeks, for example, with the understanding that Andromeda is still a thing, it is a dual screen device, is based on Windows 10 and not some new mobile contraption. I actually think this thing is, and this is again just an educated guess, I think this thing is aimed at Andromeda and Andromeda class devices. In other words, a new kind of mobile device that they haven't announced yet. And if you think about the timing of this stuff, I think Mary Jo had mentioned before the expected timing of Andromeda would be RS5, which is this fall. This is RS5, that the screen you just showed was the setup screen. And if you look at that same setup screen today in RS4, RS3, what you see in there instead of Windows 10 Lean is Windows 10S. Okay, and Windows 10S is not going to exist anymore in these new versions. So actually, you don't see it in RS4. I apologize. Instead, what you're going to get is S mode as a mode of Windows 10 Home and Pro. And depending on how you acquire the thing, it might be the default mode. So based on the information that Lucan provided, and I've not seen this thing personally, this thing behaves like a even more restrictive version of Windows 10S. So it doesn't run desktop applications at all. There's no error dialog that comes up or anything. If you download anything from the internet using Edge, which is the only browser that works in the system, it just fails silently. There's no pop-up dialog or whatever. And I think this kind of speaks to this notion of a lower resource device. It's not a PC exactly, And that's why I think it's this new kind of thing and not a netbook class, same old. I think there's no, what is the point otherwise of doing something like this? It just doesn't make any sense.
So this is not a Windows CE for 10 or Windows Embedded for 10. This is
No, it's Windows 10. Again, based on the description, I've not seen it, but it appears to be Windows 10 S without any workarounds. And that once you've kind of exercised, to use that word again today, that those parts of the system that aren't necessary to actually run those underlying desktop apps as much as you can, because obviously some of it has to be retained. You arrive at a system that apparently requires less disk space, uses less resources, et cetera.
So sorry about that. My cat just unplugged my computer again, as he does every once in a while. It's like, I don't want you talking, so stop. No, so I missed this, but I think somebody has found that this does run Win32 apps, the Lean thing.
Well, it would have to. So I should say, right. I'm sorry. What I meant is it's more restrictive. It prevents it in a way, it doesn't say, hey, there's a way out of it.
I see.
Yeah, you can't completely get rid of Win32. It's there. But I think the point of it is if you prevent it from running Win32 apps in a way that is really meaningful, that system can then use lower reason. You don't have to worry about that kind of thing. The memory management model on Win32 is completely different than it is for store apps, right?
Yeah.
The store app model is based on, it's a mobile app platform. You know, these things have sleep states and they're more elegant and so forth. So I think it's designed to assume that that's the only thing that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. So I also have seen the reports, Windows Central and others have been saying Windows 10 for storage constrained devices, right? But the name Cloud E that is attached to this makes me wonder more what that is too, right? Because remember, Windows 10S was codenamed Windows Cloud for a while, or that was like the working name, right? So here's this thing, Cloud with a capital E. The E could be Edge, like the browser. The E could be Edge, like Intelligent Cloud, Intelligent Edge, right?
Could be, just efficient, or efficiency.
Maybe, right? So that, and to your point, like, why are they going to bother to try to pick up those storage constrained devices? Maybe for security reasons would be the only reason, like how they didn't want people running Windows XP. Maybe they're also like, wow, if we don't give the people running this something, they're going to be running old versions of Windows 10 that aren't being patched.
I just had the most horrible idea. And I almost hate to say this out loud because some people have wondered about the viability of such a product. What if this was, I hate to even say this. What if this was a Windows Chromebook, except it was an Edge book?
That was my guess.
No, please.
That was my other guess. Yeah.
Right? But here's the thing. Other words, everyone's saying that it's 2 gigabytes lighter for the full installation.
Look,
that's not
in the scheme,
huge.
In the scheme of, a 128 gig SSD doesn't cost anything.
Right.
Saving 2 gigs on 128 is nothing. I don't understand the point of that. The real reason you kind of debulk that system is for runtime, right? That's where the advantages of because then you have a system with, like, say, 2 gigs of RAM or whatever it might be, and it can run more efficiently. And so we know that store apps, native store apps, UWP apps, will probably run fairly effectively in that system. And then there's these PWAs coming along, right? So far, I would say the available PWAs in the store have been on the lackluster side, but that's going to change. And I hate to even, it's such a weird kind of road to go down, but because Edge to me is one of the things in the con column for Windows 10 today, not the pro column, but Microsoft knows where people are spending their time on the web, as we've said before, and yada yada yada. I mean, maybe the solution for schools, which was part of the deal for Windows 10S, makes more sense. Maybe web apps make more sense, both for those customers and for Microsoft.
Sorry, I didn't mean to gong you.
Did your cat gong you?
No, that was me. I didn't mean to, though, because I think you're onto something. What if E is for education?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because Microsoft's making a big push. Their Microsoft for Education platform. They're putting it right up against Google for Education. If that's what this is, then the 2 gigabytes does make sense if this is going into a thin client.
That's right. Yeah. God, we're talking ourselves into this. It's so depressing. If you think back to what Microsoft announced last May around education, forget the Surface laptop thing. That actually had nothing to do with education. The real big initiative in my mind that they introduced, and I can't remember what they called it, but it was this easy management system where they could take USB keys and pop them into computers, and they would kind of auto reset so that students could use them again, right? So one of the big strengths
Intune for education, are you thinking, or no?
No, this is just the deployment tool that they had. In other words, you get in a rack full of laptops. You make you create your system image. It's something like a normal human being could do, a teacher. You don't need IT staff for this. You can just go through a series of wizards. Then you can make some number of keys. Hopefully you're not walking around to 30 of these things with one key, but maybe you have 10 keys. So you can do 10 at a time times 3 or whatever. It resets every computer in that lab to the system image that you want. It happens fairly quickly. It's kind of a rough approximation of some of the management deployment stuff that Google offers through Chrome OS. And I actually think that, when you think about education's reaction to Chrome OS, how well students like it, how well teachers like it, how well the educational institutions themselves like it, a lot of that has to do not so much with the system itself, although that's part of it, but rather with these capabilities, right? because these guys not only can't afford the computers and the software and the services and whatever else, but they can't afford the IT staff to manage the stuff. And so the ability to be able to do it yourself is really important. But the Microsoft thing is still kind of ham-handed. Like it's not as elegant as what Google has. It's probably not as quick either. Right. And so maybe making a simpler version, smaller version of Windows aids in both the cost and the management and / deployment aspect of it.